Hi, I'm Father Bob Leger, and this is another segment of the Oral History Project of the Diocese of San Jose. And I'm here with Sister Georgia Christensen, who was a part of the diocese in the very beginning and was one of the leading educators in our school system. And she was known at the time as Sister Mary Howard Christensen, but since then her community's gone back to their baptismal names. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I should explain that we are here in Tiberias, Israel,
That's right.
and Sister Georgia lives on the East Coast. Well, not quite. She lives in
Midwest.
Yes, in the Midwest. And so this was an opportunity for us to have the interview, and we decided we didn't want to let that pass. So, welcome.
Thank you, Father.
Good to have you
Thank
here.
you.
And so, where were you on January 27th, 1981, when it was announced that there was going to be a Diocese of San Jose?
I was in Palo Alto, California.
Mhm.
I was the principal at St. Elizabeth Seton School there, and I had been there since 1978.
Okay. And when you heard that there was going to be a new diocese, how did you feel?
I thought it was going to be exciting. I thought we would probably be able to have a little bit more attention, and that exciting things could happen.
Great. And now you were principal of a school which was really rather unique.
That's for sure, right. St. Elizabeth Seton School was a consolidated school. It was the school that was set up in Palo Alto that was composed of the former St. Aloysius and St. Albert School, St. Athanasius School in Mountain View, and we serviced primarily the students from East Palo Alto, St. Francis of Assisi.
Okay. And you had campuses at Our Lady of the Rosary and also at St. Albert's.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. And when we started the school, when we consolidated the school, we thought, what's going to be the best way to do this? And under the guidance of the then Superintendent of Education for the Archdiocese of San Jose, Father Dumaine, Monsignor Dumaine at the time, we decided that we would set it up. We did some investigating and decided to set it up so that we had grades kindergarten, first and second, and seventh and eighth at the St. Albert campus, and then grades 3, 4, 5, and 6 at the Our Lady of the Rosary campus. And that's how we worked it out.
And how did that work out?
I think it worked out very well. It was really an interesting way for the kindergarten, first and second graders had these big kids to look up at. And the seventh and eighth graders didn't really have to show off for them at all because they were bigger, they were the older ones. So whenever we had any kind of activities, whether they were liturgical or celebrating some different occasion, we'd have them paired up, and it would just be a perfect way of working together. And at the other campus, the sixth graders were kind of the ones that had to take charge, and so it really helped them to mature, and yet they realized that the next year they were going to go to another place, and they were not going to be the top, but they were going to be pretty close to it. And I think it really brought out leadership qualities in the students at both campuses, more so than otherwise.
Okay. So there wasn't a real problem of coordinating and all that sort of thing between the two campuses. That kind of fell into place, that you're saying.
It did. It did. We had good teachers. I was the principal of both, and I commuted on a moped, and the students kind of coined the phrase that I was Sister Mary Moped, because I was Sister Mary Howard at the time. But at first the parents were kind of skeptical as to how is this going to work. But we worked it out, and we did various occasions, various times through the year. We would have the two campuses together. We'd have the upper students walk with the lower ones to the Our Lady of the Rosary campus, or sometimes we'd have the middle grades walk over to St. Albert's, and we'd celebrate feast day of St. Elizabeth Seton. Whenever we had big productions, when we had the Christmas concert and the spring concert, or some prayer activity, we'd combine everybody. We had the same music teacher for both campuses. She would work together with them and so forth. It worked out well.
So the students felt that they had a connection with each other. For one thing, if you were in the 6th grade, you're going to be going over to the other campus next year anyway. And
That's
so,
right.
Okay.
And also, my older brother or little sister or something
That's
is at
right,
the other
yeah.
building, and we're all one family.
Okay.
Right.
Now, once San Jose became a diocese, you were suddenly serving students from 2 dioceses.
Yes.
Okay, Archdiocese of San Francisco and Diocese of San Jose.
Yes.
And also it was a bit of a diverse group
Mhm.
ethnically.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
At the time that I was there, we had approximately 50% of our students from the African American community.
Mhm.
Maybe another 25% were Hispanic, 12% or so would be Filipino, and the rest were Anglo or we had Tongan, and so it was a variety
Uh-huh.
for a population.
I remember, since I was involved with you for,
Yes, you
for
were,
3
Paul.
years, okay, 81 to 84.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going, well, first of all, one of the things we were doing was negotiated tuition.
Yes.
Yeah, could you explain that a little bit?
Well, the school board, our school board, made up of parents from all 5 of the parishes, had to set the tuition, and looking at the population that we served, it was a challenge, which meant we had to do a lot of fundraising, and we had various activities for that. And what we decided to do was to set up a negotiated tuition. The tuition was set, but if a family felt that they could not afford the tuition, they could make an appointment with the principal and the administrator of the school, which happened to be you or Father Larkin before that, and talk about your finances and see how you could contribute something financially to the school, but in addition then, how you could serve the school in other ways.
Mhm.
So in lieu of paying full tuition, parents would help clean the schoolyard, or they would supervise at recess time, or they would be very active in the fundraisers. And we really tried to work it out so that everybody could contribute something.
Mhm.
And sometimes it was, if we had an activity, they would contribute, punch and paper napkins, but it was something so that everybody felt that they really were part of the school and felt the value for their children. And the children knew that.
Uh-huh. And that worked out pretty well, right?
It did. It was
did.
amazing.
I
It really
remember
was.
going to the National Catholic Education Association meeting with you
Yes.
in Washington, right?
Uh-huh, in
And
Washington, DC.
and I went to a session on negotiated tuition, and one of the things that they said there is, of course, you only do it with Catholic families, and I knew we were not making any distinction at all in
That's
that
right.
regard. Yeah,
That's right.
that was good.
Probably, a good 50, maybe even 60% of our students were not Catholic.
Yeah.
But the families wanted a good education and knew that we had that, and so they made sacrifices, and we did too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
One of the things that was kind of unique also, well, the fact that it was a consolidated school, no one parish had the school as its school,
That's right.
but rather there were a number of parishes, okay?
Mhm.
That's changed since then because Palo Alto itself has been consolidated, so it's only one parish.
Mhm.
But,
Except for
yeah.
the students from East Palo Alto.
Right, yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
There's still another parish and another diocese.
Yeah,
Is that San Francisco Archdiocese.
so
Yeah.
So I remember that being a bit of a challenge, trying to give a sense of ownership to the various parishes,
Mhm.
and various pastors, that could be a challenge.
One of the things that reminds me of was Catholic Schools Week.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Catholic Schools Week was the time when it ended up being my privilege, really, to go to all of the parishes during weeks before and weeks after Catholic Schools Week to talk about the school. And sometimes I would be able to have students go with me, and sometimes I would have to do it alone. But one of the things that I really liked about it was that it gave me an opportunity to personally spend time with the pastors of the parish. I would arrive early, even sometimes on Saturday evening mass, I would have dinner with the priest and we could talk about the school. Or Sunday after mass, go over and have a bite to eat before the next mass, before I would talk. And I think that really helped. I also remember sometimes going to parish council meetings to talk about the school and the value of what was happening there. And as during the time that I was there, the population shifted much more to, the school population shifted much more to being East Palo Alto than Palo Alto. So it made that contact much, much more important. And to be able to tell stories of success for the students in East Palo Alto was a real gift.
One of the senses that I had was that the families who were sending their students to the school were very commonly making real sacrifices to have their children there.
Yes.
And as a result, I think they were much more ready to be involved in the process.
Yes.
At least to help out, you know.
Yeah. I think it really was amazing. We would have to keep track of who helped with what and so forth because of the negotiated tuition. Because next year, if they would want to negotiate, they had to show that they had helped in some way. And we were so fortunate with the participation of the parents, and it is because they really wanted something special for their children. And I can remember talking with one parent one time, I think it might have even been a kindergarten parent, that their little one was a little feisty, and you know, that he had to settle down, and otherwise we may have to have him go to another school. And I can remember the parents saying, "Oh, sister, you know, we really need to have him here because the environment that he's in, he has to fight when he goes outside. And we want him to learn that that's not the way to live." And as a result, over the years, this little one did learn to not fight.
Okay, great, good. Now, when the school started, when it was combined, as you were saying, Monsignor Pierre de Maine, who later became bishop, well, I guess he was already bishop actually when that happened.
No.
Because, well, he wasn't bishop in San Jose, but he was an auxiliary bishop, okay. But anyway, he had been behind the whole process of combining, and so when he was the bishop, of course, you knew he was going to be supportive of that. And then Sister Claude Power,
Yes.
what was it like having suddenly, you know, Bishop de Maine be the bishop of the diocese, and also Sister Claude Power involved?
Well, it was very helpful having Bishop Dumaine become bishop because we knew him and he knew us, and so there wasn't a gap at all with the hierarchy that sometimes there can be. I felt, you know, that he understood, and I could even talk to him about situations that were going on in the school. And Sister Claude had been in the Archdiocesan office in San Francisco, so I had worked with her as well. And I think at that time I was very I'm sure I was very active in the Diocesan Principals Association. And so we were in communication very regularly. I remember when I first came to Palo Alto, which was in '78, we had a few sisters at Our Lady of the Rosary at the invitation of Father Dermody. And our community, he had contacted our community, and our community sent a few teachers at the time. And it was right before the consolidation was going to take place.
How did Father Dermody find the sisters of your sisters in Wisconsin?
I have no idea. I don't recall at all, but I do remember that our provincial at the time and her assistant came down to Palo Alto,
Okay.
Part of it was, I think our community was very much concentrated, our western province was very much concentrated in Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
And we actually were looking for other places outside of Spokane so that we could minister. And whatever the connection was that Father Dermody connected the community decided to come down. And then there was going to be there was a change in administration at Our Lady of the Rosary first, and then at St. Albert's, and so they were going to be looking for a principal. And I was at that time I was vice principal in our girls' high school in Spokane, but I had been the principal of a consolidated school in Spokane, Washington, where we consolidated 3 parishes into one school.
Yeah.
And so our provincial asked if I might be interested in the position, and I says, well, what does it mean? And I remember coming down to Palo Alto from Spokane for an interview. And I interviewed with Monsignor Dumaine and with Father Alexander Larkin and with Ted Bear, who was from St. Albert's Parish. He was the school board president. Right. And it was after that things just sort of fell in place, and I got to come down.
Fantastic.
It was a real gift. I was able to be there for 9 years.
And a real gift to the diocese too.
Well,
the school.
Thank you.
Very much so.
Thank you.
Great.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the school?
I just am so happy to hear that the school is still going on. I think when the Sisters of Charity came and were able to invest themselves and personnel into it and their contacts with the establishment of the funding and the foundation, it just it's like, to me, St. Elizabeth Seton School is what Catholic education should be about. To enable anyone to succeed. And that provided the opportunity, not just for the wealthy or those who had educational background, parents with educational background, no, anyone. And I see that in what's happening at St. Elizabeth Seton School. I still get the newsletter from the school, and it's always exciting to see that.
Yeah, very much so.
Right,
Great,
right.
Good.
A couple other things about being in the diocese that I also remember, and that is the involvement that we had as religious women. I can remember being on a panel with Bishop Dumaine and a couple other religious women and men, and we were actually having live cast on Catholic Television Network, and questions would be called in, and sitting there, and it was a very family kind of feeling, from my perspective at least, to be in the diocese. And maybe that was because we were there at the beginning.
Right.
And we knew everyone, and it was a small diocese to a certain extent. At least all of the folks involved in education knew each other. But any of the activities that happened in the diocese, we all felt very invested. And so, you'd go down to San Jose for a big celebration of this or that or so forth. And it was a very community, a Catholic, environment.
Yeah. We had a real sense, I think, we had some really talented people.
Yes.
And there was a real sense of excitement, I think, and that helped a lot.
Yeah, it did.
Great.
It did. Lots and lots of good dedicated people. Even when we struggled with the consolidating of the schools and then the consolidating of the parishes, and that was right at the end of my time there. It's hard to let go. And yet the sensitivity, I think, of those involved in the administration at the time to help to make people really feel like you're not losing something
Right.
You know, we're trying to preserve something. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
We believe in what you have and want it to continue, and this is a way we see that it can continue. And it is.
It is, very much so.
Mhm.
Great.
Right.
Well, thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah.
you're most
Thank you for your
welcome.
part of it.
Oh,
and,
it was a
and
real
thank you for being a
privilege.
part of this interview.
Yes.
When we started these interviews and deciding, well, who do we want to talk to?
Mhm.
Your name came up right away. And so I'm glad we found a way to do it.
We had to come all the way across the ocean.
All the way across the ocean to do it, but we
And
did.
being in the Holy Land enabled
Great.
it. So
Well, thank you very
it was
much.
a privilege.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you, Father.
Okay, good.
You-